Justus, yesterday we saw a strong market, and we saw some of the biggest gains coming from some of the bigger heavyweights, East African Portland Cement, as well as Kenya Airways. And I'm just wondering, though, whether there is any fundamental reason why we're seeing that market stronger at this time of the year?
Just to give you a few, I think given the fact that it has rained in the last few days, and also given the fact that we have had third quarter earnings results being announced in the past few days, I think the market generally is looking up, and the share price rises that you're seeing lately as a result of some of the positive information that is coming in from some of those companies.
And we saw that update from Kenya Airways. They talk about expanding in East Africa. They talk about getting also into Central Africa. Would that be any reason why perhaps that share is up and running?
Yeah, as you have rightly put, one of the factors that is working for Kenya Airways is that they have been fairly aggressive in expanding within Africa. In fact, recently they had announced that they'll be going to Jeddah. They have already gone to DRC, Kisangani, and there are a few other routes that are lined up before the end of the year. My view is that for Kenya Airways, the fuel price hedging has been a big factor in determining how earnings have been behaving. And given the fact that international fuel prices recent markedly since they last announced, I think going forward Kenya Airways will be watched closely, and their policy on hedging is going to determine the view of investors going forward.
Yeah, we had an exclusive interview on CNBC Africa with the CEO, Titus Naikunu, the other day, and he was talking about the possibility of buying Ethiopian Airlines. Is that in the market? Well,
that is the discussion you had. I think that information hasn't yet trickled into a lot of investors in the market. But going by the rising price in the recent past, I think a lot of investors are viewing Kenya Airways positively. And as we head into March 2010, I think the earnings are likely to improve, not the way that a lot of us would expect, given the fact that they had hedged at around $108 per barrel. I think until the price reaches that level, we are likely to see earnings drop, but not to the extent that we had seen last time.
Okay. Would it be positive, though, for Kenya Airways to go for Ethiopia Airlines?
I think so, yes. Given the fact that Ethiopian Airlines covers a number of areas that Kenya Airways has not covered or is viewed positively. Some places in Africa, Kenya Airways is very popular. Some parts of Europe, Ethiopian Airlines is actually more popular than Kenya Airways. And in my view, an acquisition will be a positive development that would also encourage a lot of investors to get into the counter.
I see East African Portland Cement up yesterday, but Athi River Mining down. Is that news on the day, or is it just a question of investors preferring East African Portland Cement given its position in the market?
I think for East Africa Portland Cement, we have seen a number of developments that could determine, investor view going forward. The major development is the fact that they are likely to float a bond in order to take care of a loan that they had borrowed from the Japanese in around 1996, if I'm not wrong. And my view is that that hedging is likely to help the company to take care of some of those payments that they have been making on a regular basis to the company, and also take care of the fact that foreign exchange has been fluctuating in favor of the Japanese yen, which is the denomination currency that East Africa Portland Cement had gotten the loan in. So in my view, a lot of this change in price has something to do with the fact that East Africa Portland Cement is likely to float that bond.
How big is that bond likely to be?
Approximately 3 billion Kenya shillings.
Okay, okay. Sasini down yesterday, and yet, as you have just heard in the news, we were talking about Kenyan tea prices being at record levels. Would there be any specific reason why they are down? Because I see on the other end, TPS Serena gained 7%, which makes sense given these tea prices that we're seeing.
Okay, just to correct you, TPS Serena is in tourism.
Oh.
The Sasini is the one that is in tea.
Across my wires.
Yeah, okay, yeah. For Sasini, I think the fluctuations we are seeing right now are fairly short-term, given the fact that we are likely to see the announcements coming in fairly soon. In my view, tea prices have been behaving very well and in favor of Sasini and a number of other tea sector companies that are listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And going forward, you can bet that for Sasini, I think results are going to be fairly good. And the prices that are dropping, say, 1 or 2 days, that would be expected for fluctuations because of supply and demand of the share. But in the long term, probably between now and June next year, we are likely to see a price rally for Sasini.
And those tea prices, just how sustainable are they?
The anticipation had been that given the fact that tea prices in the international world market would be going up, coming from the fact that there had been drought in some of the regions that produce tea, majorly Kenya and a few other areas. The anticipation in international markets was that given the fact that production is likely to go down, the demand, the supply and demand fluctuations would be in favor of deficient supply. And therefore, it is against that background that we had a price rally in tea in the international markets. Going forward, production is likely to improve given the fact that we are now receiving some rains. And also given the fact that the global economy has not fully recovered, the view is that going forward we are going to see prices improving probably up to when production fully recovers, and I would expect that to be probably the first quarter of next year.
Now, Justus, I'm not too sure you saw results from CFC Stanbic Bank for the 9 months to September. I'll just run through quickly through those numbers. Now, that's a 6% drop in pre-tax profit for the first 9 months to 981 million shillings compared with the same period last year. But on the other hand, interest income rose 32% to 4.62 billion shillings. Now, I don't know if, as I said, if you've looked at those numbers, but the strength of the increase in the net interest income, would that be a surprise for you?
It would be a surprise because in Kenya, the spread between the lending rates and the borrowing rates is fairly high. We are talking about a spread of around 13%. And given the fact that the central bank had indicated earlier that banks need to reduce their lending rates to probably around 11 or 12%. In my view, given the fact that the saving rate is fairly low at around 2 or 3%, that spread is quite big. And for the banking sector in Kenya, in my view, is that interest income is going to be accounting for a big portion of the total income that banks generate. Yeah. Talking about the profit after tax, yeah. The marginal drop was expected given the fact that the bank has been facing a few challenges, especially when that is looked against the fact that the brokerage and investment banking section of the bank has not been doing well. And in my view, a number of banks will be registering a similar trend, and a number of others will be registering fairly good results. And I think it's all in the perspective of the fact that the banking sector in Kenya is registering relatively lower results compared to what results were announced last year.